going now.
The NBA draft is one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting, feature of the offseason. It's one night where the league's next generation of superstars find their first ever homes in the NBA. But for non-fans and casual fans, it's also one of the most confusing events in the league because the format could be quite complicated. Plus, it has been a good while since we've seen a draft because, again, the global health situation has a way of screwing up most things, so a refresher course might be in order just about now. So today, here's everything you need to know about the upcoming NBA draft and the league's draft process in general. But first, a simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We are giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad mini, or a MacBook Pro. It's all your choice. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter this giveaway. It's really that simple. Number 1. When is the next one happening? The 2020 draft was originally scheduled earlier this year, but just like everything we hold dear in life, it was preempted by the pandemic. Due to the delays in the regular season, the NBA draft will now be held on November 18th. The original plan was to hold the draft in Brooklyn's Barclays Center, but for safety reasons, it will now take place at the ESPN headquarters in Connecticut. Here's the saddest part though, no fans will be allowed to attend this year's draft. Number 2, here's a crash course on how it works. The NBA draft is spread across 2 rounds with 30 picks for each round. That's why you hear terms like first round picks and second rounders. But it all starts with the draft lottery. This one's a system introduced by the league in 1985. During this part, 14 teams that failed to qualify for the last playoffs are selected, and then ranked from worst to best based on their record in the recently concluded season. From there, the 3 lowest ranking teams are given the best chances to win the most coveted number 1 draft pick. The team with the worst record against the best odds of winning the lottery, and as a result, the right to pick first in the draft. This is done to ensure parity in the league, and to allow for a rather level playing field through equalizing quality picks throughout the draft. Number 3. So who has the number 1 pick? Based on the latest ranking, the Minnesota Timberwolves have the number 1 overall pick in the NBA this year. This is only the second time in franchise history that the Timberwolves won the right to pick first in the draft. Following them are the Golden State Warriors, Charlotte Hornets, and the Cleveland Cavaliers, right in that order. To round out the top 10, we have the Hawks, the Pistons, the Knicks, the Wizards, and the Suns. These teams have the first 10 picks of the draft. There are only 4 teams who won't own a first-round pick this year, namely the Rockets, Pacers, Clippers, and Grizzlies. On the other hand, a total of 9 teams don't hold second-rounders. The Pistons, Bucks, Heat, Suns, Nuggets, Cavaliers, Rockets, Jazz, and the Lakers. Number 4. Who are the top prospects in this year's draft class? Last year's draft was a blockbuster. It gave us rookie phenomena like 2020 Rookie of the Year Ja Morant and Zion Williamson. Even some picks that didn't make it to the top 10, like 14th overall pick Tyler Hero, ended up dazzling the league, and in a star-studded team like Miami Heat too. In comparison, this year's draft class is not that loaded, but we're pretty sure there are a couple of shining stars that would emerge to be quite revelations as soon as next year. While there are hardly any obvious standouts in the 2020 list, but the top 5 prospects are actually attracting a lot of attention already. Of course, we have LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman, Denny Avdija, and Onyeka Okongwu ranking high up on that list, but so far they are equally positioned to jostle for the number 1 overall pick, although Edwards and Ball appear to be getting the most attention. It would be fun to find out who the Wolves pick to join the pack, assuming of course that they don't trade down. Other top prospects include Obi Toppin, Tyrese Halliburton, Isaac Okoro, and Killian Hayes. The next group of players slated to get picked between the 10th and 20th pick is too early to call for now. Generally speaking, eligibility for the draft requires a prospect to be at least 19 years old during the calendar year of the draft, and at least a year removed from high school. High school players have not been eligible since the league's implementation of the so-called one-and-done rule in 2005. Note, though, that this doesn't mean that American players absolutely have to go enroll in university. We have seen top prospects like top draftee LaMelo Ball go overseas to play professionally instead so they can declare for the draft without violating the one-and-done rule for high schoolers. The rule is kind of different for international players. They are automatically eligible if they've played for a pro team outside the NBA or if they are 22 years old. There's also the option for players to declare as an early entrant. This is available for players who meet the minimum required age but don't satisfy other eligibility markers. All they have to do is make their intent known that they want to enter the draft at least 2 months ahead of time. They would then be allowed to attend workouts and receive info and feedback about their prospects. And because these probable enlistees are not automatically eligible for the draft pick, they can decide to withdraw from the process any time before the final declaration celebration, which is 10 days after the draft combine ends. Number 5. A potential draft bust. If you get him pretty early into the year's prospects, you might be wondering why RJ Hampton is no longer getting listed among the possible top picks in his draft class. Well, many an analyst jumped the gun on ranking him aggressively earlier this year, but he's actually been struggling in the NBL. He merely played 3 years of ball in Texas and didn't attend a national powerhouse program, so there might not be a lot of room for improvement. But while high school is all about star players carrying entire teams on their shoulders, the NBA requires players who are able to work hard to set up their teammates. Long story short, Hampton needs time to improve his distance shooting and his ability to become a future rotation player. Don't get us wrong, the guy's got serious talent, but for now, it might do everyone some good if he spends time in the G League next season, or else we might be looking at our first draft bust for the year. Number 6. The case for Aleksandar Pokusic. Here's another draft prospect that's attracting some controversy in the offseason. At 7 feet, he does have some impressive skill, which could make him a pretty smart long-term investment. In terms of scoring production, though, it's worthy to note that he only shoots less than 30% on 11 attempts per game at the under-18 Euros or Serbia, which made his performance less than remarkable despite the strong rebounding, assisting, blocking, and stealing prowess. Pokusevski's passing is what makes him a potential star in the NBA, though. Sure, he needs to be able to do more things on court to be completely ready for the pros, but it surely doesn't look like he needs the G League for that. With the right coach, he can be a net positive in no time. Oh, and did we mention he's the youngest player in this year's draft class? All things considered, he might be one of the earliest ones to get snapped up in the latter half. 7. The deal with Xavier Tillman. It's hard to understand why there's a serious holdup over Tillman, given that he is the best defensive big in college basketball in the US in recent memory. He's also a pretty impressive finisher despite the size. But the best thing about this draftee is the fact that he's smart enough to succeed as a rotation piece. He might have to spend his entire offseason to work on his spotty jumper, which makes him a rather strong contender to be a first rounder over other younger bids this year. Number 8. Where to witness the draft. As mentioned earlier, there will be no in-person audience for this year's draft, but that doesn't mean we're completely locked off from witnessing it. The event will actually air live on ESPN, ESPN Radio, and the ESPN's app in the United States. Again, this is all happening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on November 18th. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver and Deputy Commissioner Mark Tatum will appear in the studio to declare the selections for both rounds. Of course, the draftees will be appearing virtually. Number 9. What's the reimagined combine process method? Let's get to the specifics. Here's how the entire draft process actually played out. Instead of personal interviews, teams met the prospects by way of video interviews this year, with each player answering the same set of 10 questions, with the same batch of footage then sent out to all 30 teams. In October, a second round of half-hour interview sessions between teams and players were conducted. This accounted for specific team requests, with a maximum of 20 players per team and 13 teams max for each player. This is not that different from the usual process, other than the fact that it was mostly held virtually this year. It's worth noting that getting interviewed by a team is not necessarily a clear sign of interest, so in terms of who gets signed by whom, it will always be too early to tell until the exact day of the draft. So that's everything you need to know about the 2020 NBA Draft and the league's draft process in general. Now you're ready to immerse into the whole draft night experience on November 18th. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.